Let's see what shade of red I am today. Gluten-free, boys. We're getting this rosacea under control. I thought it was Texas trying to kill me. Turns out it was a food allergy. That's kind of a kick in the pants. I left California to get away from people that had gluten allergies. But either way, if I can make it through a whole week, not deviating from the most boring fucking foods on the planet, then I can downgrade my complexion from bruised bell pepper to a not quite ripe tomato. And I know that's the information you were all here for today. Today we're talking about bench pressing. Everybody wants to bench press more. It doesn't matter what they say. And I should know I've reached pretty high heights in the overhead press. As a strongman competitor, it's my main avenue. And I still get weird when people ask how much you bench. How about I just tell you what I military press? Whether you're a bench only specialist, a power lifter, a strongman, or regular gym bro, the world is going to judge your physicality based on your bench press ability, for better, for worse. So I'm here to help you to make sure that you don't get left behind. Getting my bench press up to snuff, like with everybody else, required me solving problems I had specifically, making good decisions, pivoting my training, and we're going to do that for you. We're covering the best bench press variations and accessories, and we're not going to do some scattershot cookie cutter nonsense. We're going to do it case by case, line by line. We're going over best variations for newbies, best accessory for people with long arms, shoulder problems, you name it, we're going to cover it. And you have to do it case by case because the thing that holds you back, it's not what program you follow, it's not your chosen approach, it's what you do when you pick it. How do you mold it to yourself? Because you are unlike anybody else. Extreme personalization is required to meet your potential. Now, on the topic of personalization, let me tell you about the tool that we made to help you with that, Base Strength AI. It's obviously daunting to handle programming, all the potential variables that you can focus on, that you can get lost in. So that's why we made Base Strength AI. It takes the basics, the foundational stuff that works for everybody, my templates, which are pretty damn good by themselves, and it supercharges them. We have a thorough onboarding questionnaire. We take into account your training history, your preferred style of lifting, your weak points, and we put it into a split that works for you. You get exercise recommendations, updates on volume. It tells you if you're hitting the gas too hard and you need to take it easy, bucko, or if you're sandbagging and you need to put a little pep in your step. The feedback it gives you is in workout, minute by minute, second by second, and you can't get that level of personalization from an online coach. And this is a tenth of the cost. We have a Discord where users can ask questions, and we've gotten some really good feedback from the people that have committed to it. So make 2025 the year that you stop messing around, give yourself permission to get strong, get those obstacles out of your way, make lifting easy again. Learn more right now, go to basestrength.com. So starting out for newbies, the idea is you've been lifting for a few months or less, or maybe you're brand new. Here's the thing about newbies. Everything works super quick. There are a million ways you get your bench going upwards. You could just go run into a brick wall until you knock yourself unconscious and do that 3 times a week. Your bench will probably go up. So we're not concerned with optimization right now. We're really concerned with getting you good habits that are going to pay off big time when you do get actually strong enough that you're at risk of doing some damage if you work out like an idiot. So think of this like driver's ed for your body. You need a basic amount, a general base of physicality. So more muscle, you want to be well-rounded. So bodybuilding work is generally very good for that. That's going to improve your ceiling for potential strength when you do plateau, if you are symmetrical and you don't have glaring weaknesses. And again, it happens super fast when you're new. We also need a lot of technical practice because the basic idea is you're new. So you don't have skill, coordination, confidence in the movement. So anything that gets you practicing a bench press over and over is going to make you better at it. Now, the thing about newbies is you're not strong enough to actually have any weaknesses. A weakness implies it's something strong and nothing strong. Everything needs to get better. So while we're not going to waste time picking apart weaknesses, we are going to focus on the things that tend to hold people back the most when they're new. And that's power off the chest. Plagued the fitness industry for a long time. Everybody thought benching was top end. You got to do lockouts and board presses and mimic the multiply lifters from 20 years ago. Triceps, triceps, triceps. And while those help as you get stronger, when you're new, it really is strength and power off your chest that is limiting. And it doesn't matter how good your skill is, your technique, or your lockout strength. If you can't get it moving off your chest, you're SOL, my friend. So that's what you want to focus on. So that means being deliberate. Come down, press as if you're trying to leave enough daylight that you can slide a piece of paper under the bar. Gently touch your shirt and reverse direction. I recommend working in pauses too. The bottom of the bench press is the most uncomfortable part, which is why people get in the habit of bouncing the bar off of the crumpled wet piece of cardboard that they call a sternum, because you get out of that shitty no man's land a lot faster. And you can come to be like a touch and go expert where you're really, really good at that. But then if you ever have to put a pause or put control on it, it's going to be worse. It's not as good for developing muscle. And if you do actually get good at deliberate changes of direction or pause benching, you're going to have an actual fucking chest, but B, it's going to make sure that you're not the guy that blows 220 off his chest and then you go to put that second plate on and it doesn't even move. So my best theoretical program for a newbie is going to be something like starting strength, where it's just benching for like a 3x5 or 5x5 and then adding a little bit of weight each time you come in a couple times a week, because that gives you the skill and the confidence. But I would also add basic bodybuilding, because you need like driver's ed for your body. You need to be well-rounded. The more well-rounded your physique is, and you're going to grow fast, so you might as well do this now instead of later. But the more well-rounded your physique is, the higher your strength potential is going to be when you actually do hit a plateau. You'll have more right answers, more wiggle room for getting your training moving again, as opposed to if you had just benched and did very little else and had kind of a lopsided physical development. So newbies need to focus on very controlled, very deliberate benching, getting very, very comfortable right off the chest, even rotating in pause work occasionally. For variations, I recommend disadvantage movements that have you go through a long range of motion that have historically been proven for just adding muscle. And they're also going to make you more confident because you are in a weaker position when you're doing these. That's incline benching, that's close grip benching. Those are two movements you can't go wrong with. As a newbie, if you get better at those, I guarantee it's going to carry over directly to your bench press. You're going to come back. The stroke is going to feel shorter, more compact. You're going to feel a lot stronger. The movement will start making sense. And you can do variations after your bench work. You can do them on a different day. You can do them in entire blocks where you just rotate through. Like, hey, I'm going to take 6 weeks and just become a close grip benching god. Like I said, there's very few wrong answers when you're new. In service of filling out your upper body, you want to treat your shoulder, tricep, and back movements like they are competitive lifts. Even getting your biceps bigger is theoretically going to help your bench control. So simple barbell movements, overhead pressing, bent rows, curls, skull crushers, all very good. Take them seriously. And of course, you can cycle in more volume. You can do cable work, dumbbell work, it doesn't matter. You can do a regular ass bodybuilding bro split, or you can do something like a linear progression and just make sure you take the time to add 4 or 5 isolated exercises at the end. And if you do that, you're going to grow like gangbusters. You don't have to do it this way. I'm just telling you it's going to be faster and it's going to solve the greatest number of problems. Now, as we get past the newbie stage, we got to look at your specific circumstances. One of the biggest obstacles guys have is when they're really lanky, if they have really long arms, but also kind of a shallow chest. Long arm guys have a daunting task, feels like you have to push the bar a million miles. Typically what happens is you either feel really weak off the chest, or if you do get the bar moving, it feels like there's this big no man's land in between. You got this big midpoint before you get the bar high enough where it can kind of pop to lockout. So as an intermediate with long arms trying to level up your bench, you got to focus on strength and speed off the chest, just like the newbies did. Get really comfortable holding the weight, blasting the weight, a lot of control, a lot of violent effort at the start. And along with that speed, you need to get comfortable at the mid-range. So you got this second tier that you got to focus on. Control at the mid-range. Anything that has you spending more time in the middle of your bench press where it's kind of awkward, that's going to make it more likely that on heavy attempts, you can actually grind through to get to that point where it just glides like butter to lockout. So instead of doing disadvantage movements where you go through more range, like the close grip or incline, we actually want to do the opposite. We want to shorten the stroke up a little bit, and we want to get the pecs really strong so they're really good at just driving the bar off. Wide grip benching is very good. It shortens the range of motion, so the benching is going to feel more efficient. You could probably squeeze out some more effort. You might find that more stimulating just for the mechanical change, but also the pecs have to work harder. So it's a good way to reinforce your pecs to get the bar moving like it's got rocket boosters on it. For getting strong at the mid-range, one of the things I like is mid-range specific work. That's work where you're kind of pulsing the rep. You're not necessarily touching your chest. You're not necessarily locking out. Now, people are going to pull that shit where it's like, well, you're cheating or you're shorting yourself or whatever. this is not a competition. This is not the time to lift because you want to impress the people standing next to you. This is the time to do things that are going to make you better. And one of the best ways to get stronger at a particular range of motion is to cut out all the other ranges of motion. And if you have long arms, what you're going to find is there's still enough range of motion going on that you're actually still getting a really good hypertrophic effect. It's guys like me with really stubby arms that can't really afford to do that without cutting off a lot of the motion to where the developmental capacity of the movement kind of tanks. So if you stop about 2 inches short of your chest and you stop about 2 inches short of lockout, you're going to find that you're right in the suck. You're probably going to feel weak. You're probably going to fatigue really fast. But if you get to the point where you can do that for longer with more weight, when you level that up, you're going to find that when you go back to regular benching, that quicksand that you find in the mid spot is going to be gone. Now, one of the other things that's going to be really good is starting the bar at some of these dead spots. So you're looking at doing things like board presses, or actually I like pin presses. I like starting from the bottom, doing a dead bench. And when you get comfortable breaking the weight from a dead stop, that says so much about your power, about your ability to recruit motor units at that spot. Remember, strength is specific to the position you're in, and going from a dead stop is a great way to condition rate of force development at spots where you typically tend to get stuck and can't really hit the gas to get out of. If you have a very obvious stick where the bar really tends to drag in the middle, I recommend starting the bar just like a half inch below that point and getting comfortable blasting through, getting the bar going, staying tight, flossing the elbows through, getting a really aggressive, really fast lockout, and practice speed when you do that. If you're a really long arm guy, you might find if you just set the pins a little higher, or do something like a 2-board press, you can actually adjust the ratio of like overload to like range of motion to where it's more favorable to general growth. And you might find making tweaks like that actually boosts up your developmental ability. Now, another important thing that long arm lifters can do to make their lives easy is to focus on the shoulders. The shoulders contribute a lot to the upward motion, but they also are what's responsible to any front to back movement. So if you do have kind of a J curve when you press, or even if you're just trying to fight to keep the bar going in the path that you want it in, having very, very strong shoulders, it's going to help at the drive off the bottom because you're going to have those elbows way back, like at the bottom of a dip, and a strong front delt helps get it going. But it's also just going to help that control as you put it through the path that you want it to, especially on those grinded reps. So you cannot sleep on front delt work if you are a long arm lifter. Front raises are great. It doesn't have to be pressing, because with long arms, pressing can be very taxing, so it can be hard to wedge in more pressing. But disadvantaged pressing movements are a good option. Wide grip behind the neck. If you don't like that, you can work in front raises. You can work in machine shoulder work, upright rows, all very good. Anything that has you raising your arm is going to get those stronger. So working in those movements along with an appropriate amount of hypertrophy work, it's a surefire way to get that bench up to the point where your arms are no longer the thing you hide behind to explain away your shitty bench press. Now let's assume at any build that you have trouble at the start. The rules for any lift for getting better at the start, they're the same, it's universal. Starting a bit lower. A deficit is a great way to get your starting power better. Works that way with squats, works that way with deadlifts, works that way with benching. So for a deficit, you're looking at putting fat grips on a bar, or using a buffalo bar if you have access to one, anything that allows you to get a bit lower than you normally would. You don't need to go that low. Just about a half inch lower than you're used to makes a really big difference. Another rule is disadvantaging yourself. That means having yourself in a weaker position to where the weight has to be lower. You're not quite as strong, so that you condition more strength at that position. So that would be something like a wide grip bench where you're really disadvantaged at the start. Or if you just spend more time under tension at that position, that conditions strength. So holding the weight at the most uncomfortable spot where you're stretched out, something like a Spotto press, stopping just about a half inch above your chest where you're under tension, having to hold the weight, going from a dead stop. Eliminating stretch reflex. That's one of the best ways to get your start going. That's why most people don't touch and go their deadlifts anymore, because starting each one from a dead stop makes sure that they'll be strong enough to actually get their 1 rep max going off the ground. Same thing with the bench. Now, by doing a dead press, setting the pins where the bar is just right off your chest and then crawling underneath it, it's a little bit of a pain in the ass, but I'm telling you, it's worth it. That conditions starting power that you're not going to be able to condition by doing all of your reps normally touch and go. So I'm a big fan of dead presses. Make sure that you relax at the bottom, you let all the tension out, and then you squeeze, get tight again on each subsequent rep, and then drive up. And it's gonna drill that pattern in. You're gonna be so strong, so resilient, it's gonna be stupid. Now, aside from working on movement patterns, you can work on the muscles that are dominant in those positions. At the top of a deadlift, you could work lockouts, or you could just get your glutes stronger because your glutes are kind of isolated at the top. They're the only thing that locks out the weight. At the bottom of a bench press, it's really going to be your pecs. Getting your pectorals stronger, getting them bigger. Doesn't matter if you do it with flies or weighted push-ups or dips, whatever you like, as long as your pecs grow, that's going to carry over to a stronger start on the bench press. If you have a weakness off your chest and you get really, really good at flies in conjunction with your benching, I'm telling you that weakness is going to start to dissipate. Now, if instead of being weak off your chest, if you're weak at lockout, if you can blast the weight up, but 3/4 of the way up, where you're mechanically in your strongest possible position, if that's where you tend to miss weights, then you're going to want to use a different list of exercises. I actually watched Leroy Walker at a meet, raw, get 700 pounds, 3/4 of the way up. Now, the thing about lockouts, you should never miss at lockout because mechanically you are so strong. It's just too easy to get your lockout strong. Now, it's been argued in the past that the faster you get the weight moving off your chest, the more likely you are to kind of catch it at the top and glide through to lockout. And while that's true, the heaviest weights you ever try to move are not going to snap that way. Benching isn't like doing a push press where you get all this momentum and then you get really good at just catching the lockout. Eventually, you will handle weights and do reps where the bar slows down, and you need to be able to grab the weight at those positions and follow through. And you're only going to do that if you are moving at low bar speeds. So I think it's much better to focus on tricep size and strength, as those are what lock the bar out. That's what's dominant. And overload the weight at the top. Get comfortable handling weights from those positions. Doing board or pin presses from the mid-range or even a bit higher is also a good option. Again, getting really good at getting tight and firing off. That rate of force development is what you want at the start. Now, there's a couple ways to use accommodating resistance. One way I got was from Sam Sheather, which makes a ton of sense, where you use light bands where you're just getting a little bit more stress on the top. Not a ton, just a little bit. And what that does is it makes it so that where you're the weakest, you actually get more strain. Now, how much weight you're moving, the sets, reps, etc., is going to change a little bit. But if you aim to get good at that and you progress your bench accordingly, you're going to find that your lockout power also does improve. Now, another way to use it is to go a bit heavier, to use it as an actual strength movement, to strain at the top with that overloaded band, but then use a contrast method where you follow that up with regular bench pressing. And it's crazy how it works. You're going to realize how much your nervous system plays a role and how little nervous system stimulation you were getting at that point. Because if you do it right, those strained reps against a band where you're really fighting at lockout, once you go to a regular bench, you're going to find that as you blow it up off your chest in your normal style, you're going to feel like you had a second gear that just got implanted into you. I remember doing this for my overhead press, and it was ridiculous. When I dropped to the straight weight, it felt like there was a ghost that was just like levitating my arms for me at the point where I was normally weak. You can also make a tweak to your benching. Just practice holding it at the top for a 1 or a 2 count. That goes a long way to reinforcing your lockout. You'll be very surprised how that tweak itself over several weeks can really change how confident, how strong you are at the top. It's not just strength, it's also coordination. As you get to the top, you need to be able to keep your shoulder blades down and floss your elbows through. So just like your hips, you don't pull up on locking out a deadlift, you push your hips through. At the top of a bench, you floss your elbows through, and that's a specific type of coordination. So you want to use these movements to condition that into your brain. Now, I don't recommend going crazy on the overloaded movements. You can do them occasionally, but if you're going heavy bands, or you're going 5 board press over and over and over, you're going to get burnt out and it's going to affect your other lifts. I would use these sparingly. Have your regular bench work, and then afterwards you can do the heavy stuff. The fatigue is actually good because it's going to keep the absolute weight down just a little bit, or you can program them on a different day. Just be very careful not missing reps over and over, not overshooting, because it's really, really easy to get crazy on the overload to where it's actually detrimental. Give yourself a lot of time to work up. Focus on deliberate execution as opposed to just throwing up a bunch of pig weight. Now, lastly, this is a big one because benching has been known historically to chew people's shoulders up. So on the path to bench press greatness, if you get like a rotator cuff tear, a torn labrum, an impingement or something, bursitis, there's so many things that can go wrong. It's a pretty complicated joint. So when your shoulders are acting up, I don't recommend ditching bench pressing altogether. I recommend trying to modify it through a range of motion that doesn't hurt. I found a couple of hacks that allowed me to do that pretty well, and I've had success with clients as well. With like labrum tears where your shoulder kind of clicks and it feels like it's going to pop out, I focus specifically on drilling my shoulder blades down and not letting them move, and I find a range of motion where I feel stable. If I get a little bit too low, that tends to be where I feel like my shoulder is going to pop out. So even though it's not ideal for general benching, I can still maintain strength as that heals and becomes solid. Now, if it's just kind of a vague shoulder pain, maybe it's a bicep tendon, maybe it's something in your rotator cuff, then I would recommend looking towards different movement variations that don't hurt. Switching your grip, doing a reverse grip bench press can be very, very productive. You might be surprised how comfortable that is on your shoulders if you got a lot of wear and tear going with a regular pronated grip. You could also try a Talon grip like Jimmy Kolb promotes, or just do a regular ass neutral grip on like a Swiss bar. And again, play around with it. Find the range that doesn't hurt. It's perfectly okay to spend a block getting work in where you're not going full range if really getting that stretch just lights your shoulders up. This is also a really great time to focus more on the control that I've been beating into the ground so far, doing a slower negative, a more deliberate change of direction, and a nice controlled even press up as opposed to trying to blast it up with a lot of speed and power. If you're a more advanced bencher, it might not be strength specific, but who gives a shit? It's going to allow you to get work in that you couldn't otherwise. And it has a really good developmental effect. So you might actually walk away with a little more hypertrophy than you had initially counted on. Now, this variation was actually crucial for me. I've used this both for benching and for overhead pressing when I had shoulder problems, when I really overdid it, prepping for like log presses and medleys where I had to do multiple different things overhead. That's chaos band benching, where you have either something like a tsunami bar or a straight bar with just bands attached, weights hanging from bands, basically where you have the weights oscillating at different rates. And this looks gimmicky as shit. Guys have used it in general training. I've always been skeptical of that. But for shoulder rehab, when your shoulders hurt like shit, this actually makes it very, very easy to press in many situations without feeling like you're getting stabbed directly in the shoulder joint. And I was able to get a huge pump through my pecs, through my delts. My shoulders got filled with blood. They felt a lot better. And I just focused on controlling the weight and getting to the point where the muscles started to cook a bit. And it was really, really productive and I felt great. It's always a bonus when you can find work that allows you to continue growing, but also allows symptoms to subside when you're dealing with some pain. And the last one I found was really heavy rack holds, setting the pins very high and just holding for time at the top. This subjects the shoulder joint to a lot of stress, but usually you're not in a range of motion where you're going to be making the problem a lot worse. You're not moving into those precarious positions. So that extra strain can actually condition a lot of stability within the joint, and it can help maintain strength on the path to recovery. If you do have a dodgy shoulder, don't go into this trying to break world records or trying to handle 100% more than your normal bench. Make sure that you're not working into the pain. Give yourself time to ramp up. Make sure that doing it doesn't hurt, and then make sure that you don't have symptoms that show up a couple of days after you did it. And every time you come in, you'll actually be surprised how easy it is to add weight to it and to test yourself a little bit more. And as you increase weight, you should find you're a bit stronger and your joints are actually a bit more stable. So it should really kickstart your recovery quite a bit. And just so many bench shoulder problems can be solved by hammering the ever-loving shit out of external rotation and rear delt work. So if you do that religiously while searching for ranges of motion that don't hurt and finding ways to get work in without making symptoms worse, you're gonna be A-okay. You're gonna be up to snuff before you know it. And if you're smart, you might even have a little extra physicality to play around with when it's time to start loading up the bar again. So that's all I got for today, guys. Let me know what you think about these accessory lists. Have you had some of these issues? Have you used any of these before with success? Let me know in the comments below. Until next time, this is Bromley. I'll see you.